Hello everybody, it's Siobhan again from At One Wellbeing. So the focus of our discussion this week, or of the presentation this week, is around motivation. So I'm just going to share the screen with you now and the PowerPoint presentation, and we will have a conversation then on how to become more motivated, because you know what, sometimes being motivated is really, really difficult. And what I find in my own personal life is that when I am feeling motivated, it is so much easier to be motivated. But see, when I'm not feeling motivated, it is incredibly difficult to get started. So what I want to talk about today is really, what is motivation? How do we ourselves become more motivated? And what things can we do to help ourselves? And sometimes I find as well that even using the word motivation actually puts me off, because I keep saying, Siobhan, my God, where's your motivation gone? You know, you used to be able to do these things. You used to be able to get up and get out and go for a walk. What is it that's wrong with you, right? And if you talk to yourself in those terms, well, you're creating nearly a problem for yourself. So what we want to do is to find ways to become more motivated, to find ways to talk to ourselves in a manner that actually instills, like whether it's confidence to do it or whether it's enthusiasm for it or enjoyment of it. Because if we are using negative words to try and motivate ourselves, sometimes that can make things a wee bit more difficult. So what is this term motivation? What does it mean? Well, it's basically used to describe why a person does something, right? So why do you do something? Do you do it for enjoyment? Do you do it for pleasure? Do you do it because you know you have to do it? Because have to and must do is a wonderful master sometimes, and some even thinking like I have to get up and do that can be very, very helpful. And motivation really is the driving force behind our actions as human beings. So it's what drives us forward. And sometimes that can provide challenges. But you know what, as we go through this presentation today, we'll talk in a wee bit more detail about some simple things that you can do to motivate yourself. So it is what causes us to act. So for example, if I'm thirsty, I get up and get a glass of water. If I'm studying or if I have an exam coming up, then I will study for an exam. So it's what causes you to act. And sometimes if there is no real cause for you to act, then it is very difficult to find your own motivation. So becoming more motivated. What is it that makes us feel more motivated to do something? And I like to use practical examples of my own life, because there are many times when I find motivation really difficult, as I said. So what is the purpose of my motivation? So say, for example, I have been working for myself, running my own business for the last 2 years. And before that, I was always up and out and running about, you know, jumping in the car, going to meetings, you know, driving up to Belfast, driving here, driving there, driving everywhere. And that momentum, you know, that continuous momentum kept me fully motivated. Kept me motivated to do more exercise, to be out more, to go for walks, to, you know, do like Zumba classes and things that really I enjoyed. But when I actually then set up my own business, what I found was that I was persistently sitting on my backside, day in, day out, doing no form of exercise. And then when it came to the stage where I'd noticed that my trousers were a wee bit tighter and my dresses didn't fit quite as well anymore, I began to think, right, okay, you need to be doing something different, Siobhan. You need to be doing some exercise. And of course, the more I persisted with myself, the less and less motivated I became. And you know what? Then it became a real problem. It became a real problem because I was beating myself up. So up in the morning, right, okay, today is the day, you'll go out for a walk today. No walk taken, no exercise taken. In the evening time, oh my God, seriously, what is wrong with you? Why can't you just get up and go? My God, you used to be able to do this stuff. It was routine. And so I get into this like cycle of, you know, trying to encourage myself. It didn't work, and then beating myself up about it. And that was the road to no town. That actually I found really, in fact, demotivated me even further. So what can we do then when we think about, you know, how to become more motivated? So basically, at the start of pandemic, actually, I froze to the spot, and I've shared that with you before. I froze to the spot and found myself unable to do anything really. Unable to, you could have written your name in the dust in my hearth. That's how bad it got. So what was it then that radically changed my approach to, you know, how I was behaving at the very start of pandemic. Well, number one, I think I was quite shocked with what happened and how quickly it happened, how little control I had over it. But in actual fact, when I began to think and unfreeze myself and accept what had happened just for what it was, a change in my life that I had no control over, actually then I began to think, right, okay, so what is it that I can do? What is it that I want to remember of myself during this entire phase of lockdown and, you know, the restrictions and all of that? And what I wanted to remember about myself was what positive things I did for myself. And then that helped me to define my purpose. It helped me to really think about what I wanted to achieve. It made me think about what I'm passionate about and what main challenges that I faced in order to get motivated and how I was going to address this. So what is it that I wanted to achieve? Well, do you know what? My life changed, right? So here I am sitting today doing another like online video. I'd never done this type of thing before. So really, when I looked at what I was doing, right, I couldn't get out. I couldn't get out and deliver face to face anymore. That was impossible. So what did I want to achieve then when I couldn't get out? Well, do you know what? I wanted to achieve a level of fitness that I would congratulate myself for when pandemic was over and when we were out and about doing our normal things. So I wanted to achieve fitness, right? So what is it I'm passionate about? Well, do you know what? I'm passionate about people, and I'm passionate about out and, you know, walking and exercising and talking. And a friend of mine actually messaged me one day and said, Siobhan, listen, do you fancy doing a social distance walk? And that was the start of it. The main challenge that I faced, but I hadn't walked for 2 years. And of course, I did my day-to-day walking about, you know, going to the shop and whatever, but I had done no purposeful exercise for 2 years. And it was just that message, a social distance walk. And I'm so lucky to live where I am, because they have created all sorts of new pathways and walkways and through the countryside, down along the Claddy River, and it's just amazing. But the challenge I faced, as I said, was that I hadn't done any exercise, and you know what? That nearly created fear in me about trying to start exercising again, knowing rightly that I was not fit at all. So how was I going to address that? You know, that lack of motivation, nearly that fear of starting again. The best thing that happened to me was that somebody else was there. Somebody else was there. And I know social distance walking is not the same as, like, you know, walking side by side. It didn't matter. It was just that oomph that I needed to get up and get out of the house. So in order to address my level of fitness, in order to do something that I'm passionate about, in order to overcome that challenge that I had around personal fitness, the best way that I was able to address that was to get a body, right? So, I mean, when you think about it, if you're trying to make any sort of a change in your life, and making changes sometimes can be really, really, really difficult, what is it that we can do for ourselves? What practical things can we do for ourselves? Because you know what, see, when you're thinking about doing something different, when you're thinking about changing your diet or stopping smoking or drinking less alcohol, drinking less coffee, drinking more water, doing more exercise, losing a bit of weight, whatever it is, changing jobs, doesn't matter what it is. The first step that I would suggest that you take is to set yourself a goal. Identify what the goal is, because if you're going through life, as I have gone through life sometimes, kind of like half thinking and half aiming, but really not doing anything at all. Identifying that goal, like for example, my fitness goal was really, really important to me, and make it smart, specific, measurable, achievable, you know, things that you can do for yourself, realistic, time bound. That's really, really important, because if you're finding it difficult to motivate yourself, as we can do sometimes, setting yourself a smart goal is really, really important. And you know what? Write it down. Write it down. And when you have that goal written down, then start to really explore the reality surrounding your goal. And how realistic is that goal for you right now? Because if you want to go out and, you know, play team sport and things like that, at the minute, sadly, that is not realistic, because we're not supposed to, we're not allowed to. So for me, for example, going out for a socially distanced walk, yeah, it was specific. I was going to walk from my house up past the school, down along the river, over to the wee pub, the water wall, and back again. Specific, measurable, yeah, absolutely. I have a device on my phone that allows me to measure it. Achievable, yes. It started off actually for me about 2 miles. 2 miles, and that was really achievable achievable for me. Realistic, yes, most certainly realistic, especially when I had my friend Helen with me, and time bound. When am I going to do it? How many times a week am I going to do it? So I didn't want to overstretch in the first couple of weeks, so I promised myself that I would walk 3 times a week. So yes, it meets my reality right now, and it is a realistic goal for me to set. And when I think about the options that I have where I live, you know, I can walk down to the Claddy River, I can walk down to Port Glenone, I can even drive down to Port Glenone, and I can walk along the River Bann. And you know what? All those options are available to me. And then how willing am I to do it? So if you're looking on a scale of 1 to 10 about how willing you are to actually do the goal that you have set yourself, if it's like not 1, 2, 3, then you know what? Just ask yourself, what would get it to 4? What would get it to 5? And just work your way up, because you don't want to be overwhelming yourself, because you know what? Time's stressful enough at the minute, and we don't want to be overwhelming ourselves by setting these massive goals for change. And you know, I am going to be so fully motivated. So when you think then about that, and then you think, right, okay, so what tactics am I going to put in place? For me, the tactic that I use for myself in terms of, you know, giving myself motivation is to do it with a friend. And it's, oh my goodness, it makes such a difference. I do walk by myself sometimes when Helen's not available, but I so thoroughly enjoy the conversation, shout it across to each other as we walk along. Just that, you know, that sense of company and connection, even though at a social distance. And what new habits will you have to put in place to help you to achieve this? So for example, for me, new habit was getting the training shoes on, sending Helen a message, and just waiting for the response and getting out and doing it. So when you think about your goals, and when you think about how difficult it can be sometimes to become more motivated, and if you have no goals, you know, if you don't set yourself any goals, then your motivation levels are unlikely to change. So what I have just outlined here is setting yourself a goal, making it smart, looking at the reality surrounding your goal. Is it realistic? Can you do it? Look at the options you have, because you know, for example, you may not like walking, you might like running. So options are always options. And how willing are you to do it on a scale of 0 to 10? And how do you work your way up? And how do you actually pat yourself on the back when you have taken that first small step? What tactics are you going to use when you're trying to become more motivated? And what new habits will you try and form? Because, you know, we're all a work in progress. I can tell you from my own honest knowledge of myself that sometimes I can, you know, adopt really bad habits, like, you know, walking about or sitting about all day in my pajamas. That's not going to cut the mustard. You know what? I get up, get showered, get ready for the day every single day, because it's so easy to be drawn into that comfort, you know, like, oh, I don't have to go out today, so I can lounge about in my pajamas. So new habits need to be formed as well. And, you know, negative habits are just the routine things in life, and you will know in your own heart of hearts what those habits are and what measures that you want to put in place in order to help you to change those habits. So, you know what? We can all ask ourselves some questions about motivation. And some of the questions I asked myself, you know, as time was going on, were like in a really negative sense. So, you know what? We all have beliefs about ourselves, and those beliefs have been formed over many, many years and many conversations and experiences that we have. Do you believe, number one, that you can achieve this goal, right? How do you see yourself in relation to the goal that you have set yourself? What are you saying to yourself about it? You know, are you living like your authentic truth? Are you saying, I can do and I will do? Because what I have found about, you know, motivating myself, if I say I can't do it, and if I say I can do it, I'm always right. Because if you keep telling yourself, oh, I can't change this and I can't do that, and oh, you're going to live that truth Whereas if you say to yourself, do you know what? I believe in myself and I can do. I can put my training shoes on and go out for a walk. So when you think about goal setting and when you think about motivating yourself, what is the biggest challenge for you right now? As you sit listening to me today, what is your biggest challenge right now? Write it down. Why is it a challenge right now? How do you think about this? You know, because our thinking can have our thinking styles and how we think about things can have an effect on absolutely everything. So if you think, right, okay, oh my goodness me, I couldn't possibly do that. No, I'm not fit enough. Oh God, I'm getting too old for that old nonsense now. So if you keep telling yourself these stories, and we're all fantastic storytellers, we tell ourselves some wonderfully amazing stories about what we can't do and what we shouldn't do and why we shouldn't do it. So, you know, when you think about making any form of change, especially the bigger changes in life, and especially when it comes to getting yourself motivated to make those changes, I always ask myself, how would I feel if I had already achieved this? Right? Would I feel great if I had already achieved it? And then what judgments am I making about myself in relation to this goal? So if I'm beating myself up, which I have done, about not being able to do it, and oh my God, there goes another day. And imagine if you had had it done today, that would have been day one done, right? Day one done. Imagine that sense of achievement that you would get having day one done, having made that small change, and then celebrating that small change. And as those small changes become more and more routine and they become more habitual, actually what happens then is that the change becomes the big change, right? The change becomes a big change. I'm always one for saying, you know, if you're trying to motivate yourself to do something differently or do something new or do something that you know that is good for your physical health or your mental health, step by step by step is the way to do it. Because if I had said to myself, I'm going to walk 7 days a week and I'm going to walk 7 miles a day, never in a month of Sundays would I have achieved that. I would have overwhelmed myself completely. So I set myself goals that I believe I can achieve. I set myself goals that I know will make me feel better when I have actually achieved them. You know, and that marginal gains, celebrate every single tiny step. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with saying, well done. Well done, Siobhan. I'm now walking 5 days a week and I'm walking 3.5 to 4 miles a day. And over the period of 6 weeks, you know, I am so pleased with myself. I am so proud of myself. And even last week, for example, I had messaged my friend Helen and I said, listen, it's raining and maybe we shouldn't go. Helen didn't pick that message up. So I got a message from her sometime later when I was lounging in the sofa under a blanket to say, I'm sitting in front of the school. That's where we meet. And I'm like, oh, she's sitting in front of the school. Oh my God, oh my God. I phoned her, said, give me 3 minutes, training shoes back on again, coat back on again. It was laughing out of the heavens, but you know what? I'm not made of sugar or salt and I did not melt. And it's just lovely to have that sense of I did it. I was tired and I did it anyway. And you know, how I talk to myself about that, I would have happily lay in that sofa if Helen hadn't phoned me. And then I would have been going like, Craigie, there's a day that we missed. And you know, it wasn't really, it was just mizzling. It wasn't even raining that hard. And you know, that sense of achievement in itself gives me motivation to go and do it the next day and the next day and the next day. And you know what? Exercise is so good for your mental health. I mean, we covered this last week, how good exercise and moving is good for your mental health, because you get that sense of doing something really positive for yourself. And see, when I'm walking, I think about nothing else. And when I'm chatting with Helen, I actually so enjoy that conversation. So what is it that you can do that brings you pleasure, brings you a sense of achievement, you know, something you feel proud of yourself for doing, because that in itself can be a really, really strong motivator to do something new, to do something different, and to make any sort of change in your life. So again, when you think about it, right, if you're finding it really difficult to motivate yourself to do anything differently, and you've got yourself into a wee bit of a rut, well, what's wrong with making a plan? What's wrong with writing it down and making it specific and measurable and achievable and realistic, and set yourself a time scale? And don't forget to reward yourself as you go along, right? So again, we're back to the SMART plan. Because sometimes when we are so demotivated, getting started is the most difficult thing. That first step is the most challenging thing. But if you were to write it all down, what is it that you want to do? Use the SMART technique. Be really specific about it. How are you going to measure it? How are you going to congratulate yourself? How realistic is it? And time bound, you know, making a plan without, you know, writing down when you're going to do it or thinking about when you're going to do it. I mean, you might as well not bother at all, because making a plan is so incredibly important for our sense of motivation. And then you pay attention to what drives you. So when do I feel most motivated? I feel most motivated first thing in the morning. I get up and I'm full of life and full of buzz and, you know, all the like, right, okay, it's a new day. So I feel most motivated in the morning, but it's not practical for me to even go out exercising with Helen, because Helen can't do mornings, she works. So do I, but I work for myself and work from the house. She goes to work. So actually the evening time, but the very fact that I have my buddy Helen there makes it so much easier for me to get up and go out for a walk in the evening. And so what excites you about this? And I always think, you know, in terms of my fitness levels, you know, I used to be right and fit when I was younger, but of course when you get older it's much more difficult. But you know what excited me most about it was feeling better, feeling healthier, feeling fitter, feeling more toned, fair enough, and excited about the fact that I was spending time with my friend. Walk and talk, so good for you, you know, whatever's going on in your day, and you can talk about it to your friend and, you know, get it off your chest. And what gives you a sense of accomplishment? Well, for me, the sense of accomplishment I am getting from this is actually I feel better in myself. I feel a wee bit more like I used to feel. And, you know, when you ask yourself questions around your own motivation, are there situations where you feel really creative? And when do you feel a sense of purpose? Because purpose in making a change is everything we talked about defining your purpose. And can you seek to apply your time and skills more to these things, the positive things? You know, when do you feel creative? When do you feel more purposeful? When do you feel most motivated? What aspects about what you're trying to do excites you most? And what situations do you feel best, you know, plan to do it? Because those are the things that drive you to make changes. So if you wanted some tips on how to become motivated, right? I would always say, have a routine. My routine is that message that goes to Helen, the message that comes back, and we have now established a really, really good routine, because that's your own personal system. I mean, what you can do for yourself is entirely different than what I do for myself, because I have my own push factors, my own pull factors, the thing that drives me forward, the thing that pulls me forward. And these are always different for every individual, because we're all just human beings at the end of the day. But if we want to become more motivated, a routine and a personal system and how you manage your own goals, your aims, your objectives, everything is entirely down to you. And of course, those daily goals which are achievable, and make them, you know, break them into those manageable chunks that work for you. Manageable chunks that work for me is easier for me because I know myself very, very well. I know when I'm more motivated. I know when I'm really unmotivated. I know what I have to say to myself. I know what I have to do for myself. And I break it up into manageable chunks. There's no way I would go out walking 3-4 times a day. I know what I can do. And if you're trying to, you know, set daily goals which are achievable, small steps, right? Don't overwhelm yourself, as I said, but take small steps and minimize distractions. So that's really important when you're trying to motivate yourself. You know, that white noise that goes on all over the place, minimize those distractions, because you know what? Sometimes motivation, well, sometimes, all of the time, motivation takes focus. Because what you want to make sure is that if you want to make a change, and if you are dedicated to make that change, you need to focus on the things that you need to do in order for that change to happen. And the gift, you know, the gift is within us all. And I always say, you know, people come to me for life coaching because they want to motivate themselves to make a change. And they say, well, Siobhan, what would you do? Well, I can't answer that question. Actually, I have a magic wand which I apply to myself. What you need to do is find your own magic wand and then decide how you apply that to yourself, because motivation does take work. And what commitment device do you have? You've heard me mention Helen. and a wonderful buddy, somebody who is as enthusiastic as I am to get fit, to enjoy each other's company, to have the chat. And that for me is really important. And there is an accountability aspect to it as well. Because if Helen had said to me the first time I messaged to go out for a walk, saying, no, Siobhan, I don't like walking, then I probably wouldn't have done it. Or if I did do it, it would have taken me a lot longer to get started. So having a friend or somebody that you enjoy being with or spend time with to have as your buddy, then they can help hold you accountable and provide you with the motivation when yours is maybe at a lower level. I know I do exactly the same for Helen, because I messaged her today. I was away for the weekend. I messaged her today. I said to her, do you want to go out for a walk? And she was like, bang, yes, I do. I would imagine when I'm talking to Helen this afternoon, when we do go out for a walk, that Helen perhaps has not walked since I was away. And then, as I said, congratulate yourself for completing each section with a break or a walk or a coffee, whatever it is that you want to do. Congratulate yourself, pat yourself in the back. Because you know what, if you're trying to make a change and you're finding it really difficult to get your mojo, and when you lose your mojo, it's hard to find your mojo, you know, congratulate yourself for completing each small step, whatever it is. If you're sitting today and you say, you know, I'm writing a book, or I'm writing a poem, or I'm doing something that takes, you know, a lot of energy and effort, why don't you take a break? Why don't you just, you know, go for a walk, get a cup of coffee, whatever it is? Because you know what, if you are, you know, punishing yourself for not doing things, well, that's going to make it really difficult. And then motivation becomes like the M word, you know, it's like a bad word. And if you do find using the word motivation or motivating myself kind of off-putting, why don't you just replace the word motivation with determination? I am determined to make a change. I am determined to eat more vegetables. I am determined to give up smoking or alcohol or whatever. And determination is a very, very strong word. And if you can, you know, if you're finding it difficult to even see yourself becoming more motivated, why don't you see yourself becoming more determined? And a word that I use for myself is, you know, tolerations. What is it that I'm tolerating about my life right now that I really don't have to? And you know what, that even the use of the word tolerating, you know, there's something about tolerating. I tolerate no bad behavior. I tolerate no, you know, I don't tolerate people speaking down to me or talking mean to me or nastily to me. I just don't tolerate it. And so when you start to get yourself into a different mindset and start using different words and replace the words like motivation with what am I tolerating, what am I putting up with? I'm putting up with the fact that I have not walked the length of myself in years. Not good enough, Siobhan, you will no longer tolerate that. And I am determined to use this particular time to regain a level of fitness. And so with the use of those words, everything changes. Everything changes. And you know what, in the midst of it all, when I think about how to motivate myself, there's other practical things that you can do for yourself. Eat well, get enough sleep, take breaks, tackle negative thinking. And sometimes that tackling negative thinking, and we're going to be doing a short webinar on negative thinking and how to, you know, enable yourself to think more positively. If you're continuously talking negatively and thinking negatively about yourself, that really has a very, very detrimental effect on how motivated you feel, how determined you feel. And another word that I use, how stubborn I am. Because I'm very stubborn when push comes to shove. I'm very stubborn, and you know what, when I set my mind to something, I'll just go ahead and do it. But it's not that easy. And as I said, only for Helen at this time, and only for that vision I had of myself, or wanted to have of myself, that, you know, what is it that you achieved during lockdown, Siobhan? This is not big stuff, you know, this is not writing a book or learning a new language. This is just the simple act of being kind to myself and being kind to my body, and really taking steps that I know when I look back, even this time next year, when I look back, I say, wow, Siobhan, do you know what? You used your time positively, and you unfroze yourself just by accepting what was going on, and you made choices that had positive consequences for you and your life. Because when you hit 48 years of age and you're not that far from 49, you think to yourself, right, my fitness is really important, my bone strength is really important, you know, how I feel about myself is really important. And those are the words that I use to motivate myself, but I also care enough about myself to do this for myself. And I want to look back on this period, which has been so incredibly difficult for all of us, and say, well, do you know what, Siobhan, congratulations, well done, and feel good and look good, you know, and just that sense that I used the 3 or 4 months, maybe 5 months, 6 months, none of us know yet, but use that time to do something that was positive for me. Always be kind to yourself. You know what I said earlier on about, like, oh my God, another day has gone by and you didn't do anything. For God's sake, what's wrong with you? That is no way to speak to yourself. That is no way to speak to yourself. Every day, find things that you're grateful for and say it out loud. I am grateful to be here. I am grateful that I have friends that I can go out walking with. I am grateful that I can put my feet on the ground first thing in the morning. I am grateful I feel well enough to get out of bed. And you know what? Expressing gratitude every day can really encourage you and motivate you to make changes. Because if we're going through life, and I know life can be difficult sometimes, if we're going through life and saying, oh my God, everything's terrible, everything's woeful, yes, of course everything will be terrible, everything will be woeful. But if you start to say, I'm grateful for the fact that I can jump in my car and go up and look at my mother and father, looking on them, I'm grateful that I can, you know, do the shopping for mommy. I'm grateful that I can do, you know, help other people. I'm just so grateful that I am alive right here, right now. And saying those things out loud are very, very helpful, because it makes you look at things much more positively. And it shifts your mindset. You keep telling yourself, I can't do, I can't do, I can't do. You're telling yourself your own truth. If you shift to say, I can do, I will do, I am starting, then that shifts everything. And to encourage yourself and be kind to yourself. Because you know what? Kindness is, well, I'm not saying it's underrated. Kindness to others, I find really, really easy. I'm a very, very kind person. Kindness to myself actually is much more of a challenge for me. And some of the things that I say to myself, I wouldn't even dream of saying out loud. So kindness to myself and to others can reduce isolation, stress, build self-confidence and self-esteem. And you know what? We deserve to be confident. We deserve to feel good about ourselves. We deserve to have a high opinion of ourselves, because that is absolutely important to us as human beings. So, you know, there's things that you can say to yourself to make you feel more motivated. There's things that you can stop saying to yourself that really just, you know, magnifies the fact that you feel unmotivated. And be kind to yourselves, because kindness to yourselves is important is as important as being kind to other people. So listen, that's the end of the motivational webinar today. I do hope you enjoyed it. As I say, and I do say it all the time, it's really, really difficult to sit here and have no interaction and no back and forth and no like chat or conversation, because you know what, even being in a room full of people sometimes motivates me to be like on fire, and sitting here in front of a computer screen is actually quite difficult. So listen, thank you very much for listening. I hope you found something useful in that. And if you're really trying to get motivated to do something different, use today, use this day, use every day to do something that is good for you, to congratulate yourself on every single tiny step that you take towards your goal, to set the goal, to look for what you're passionate about, to look for your purpose, to define that purpose, and to be kind to yourself, to express gratitude every day, to remove barriers to motivation. You know, even the word motivation, as I said, has become so overused, it's nearly demotivating to use the word motivation. Replace the word motivation with your own determination, with your own feelings of self-worth, with your own desire to build confidence, with your own desire to have high levels of self-esteem. Whatever it is pushes you forward, or whatever you need to pull you forward. Today is the day. Today is the day to find it. So listen, I'll be back again next week to do another video. And I want just to thank Anita again from Cookstown and Western Shores Area Network for, you know, enabling me to deliver this series of webinars, because you know what, it's important at the minute. It's important at the minute that we take good care of our mental health. And all of the themes that I'll be covering over the next few weeks will be around encouraging you to do things that are good for you. And let's not lie down to it. Let's try our very, very best And at some stage, God knows, we may even see each other face to face. So that's me done, and thank you very much once again, and I will now stop recording and see you soon. Bye.